All right, guys, today we're gonna talk a little bit about ground controls, E30 M3 full bolt-on coilover system for the E30 M3. They already make it for the non-M3s. I guess they're a little late on the race here because, you know, obviously KW also has the same kit now where you just literally bolt it on. The only difference, well, I'm gonna explain the only difference is this is a factory E30 M3 spindle, strut tube, whatever you wanna call it. E30 M3s, however, have a lower knuckle, you know, and the lower knuckle is what houses, what bolts the lower control arm and the tie rod together. Obviously, the suspension geometry is different from our standard E30, on top of it being 5-lug. So ground control has their full kit now. It's full bolt-on, fully machined, welded, everything done here in the US. They developed theirs to where you don't utilize that lower knuckle anymore. It's all part of the tube. And yes, I know some guys are gonna be saying, well, I can't run the bump steer correction plates, blah, blah. Well, ground control has already integrated that, and they actually have, I believe, a couple options. So I think this one's like 15 millimeters over stock. But, you know, and I'm not talking down on KW or anything like that. Their products are great. It's just, I personally love ground control. You know, I put them on all my cars, never had an issue. Anytime I've had a problem, whether it be fitment, I mess up hardware, missing hardware, literally get it overnighted from them. They're always ready to help me. So, which is great. And I've been dealing with them for quite some time now. A lot of cool things that I like about the ground controls versus the KW is, one, the lower knuckle is just beefed up. It has reinforcements. I think the KW is made like 100% like mimicking the factory, which is great. You know, if you don't drive your car hard or you don't beat it up, you know, obviously no one intends to beat the shit out of their cars that much or where they need extra reinforcement. But to me, living here in LA, you never know. I'm not the worst driver, but I'm not the best. I make mistakes, I hit potholes, and I've hit a couple curves here and there. So having all the reinforcement, beefier setup is great. It's still, you still can retain the dust shield, the bearing cap, bearing, dust shield, everything's bolt on. You literally just transfer over your hubs, or like we're doing on this car, we're gonna install new bearings, new hubs. Another cool thing or great thing that I love is every single ground control coilover kit that I buy already comes with camber plates, shock mounts, and this is all CNC billet. What bums me out about KWs is they don't come with strut mounts or camber plates or any sort of strut mount. Yeah, you can utilize the stock ones, but if you want full adjustability and whatnot, camber plates is the way to go. And this is ground control's street touring plate, which I love because it has a beefier bushing and it has a bearing for the spring so you don't get coil bind or anything, and it's a camber plate, you know. So this is my go-to setup. And now for the E30 M3, now we're just gonna plug and play, and where these things, in my opinion, used to be super overpriced, now to some are gonna be worthless. You know, I think I remember paying like $2 grand for a full set at one point. I just bought some the other day that were like $500, which is great because for people who don't want to spend, you know, a lot of money doing a 5-lug, this is perfect because you do it the correct way. You keep the wheel fitment, all the mess out of having to run adapters, all that out of the way. You buy a set of these, you have E30 M3 5-lug with 0 issues. So I'm very excited. This is the very first kit that they've made. We are gonna be doing some R&D, making sure that everything is how we want. This particular set is about 2 inches shorter than stock, which just means that by having the spring fully adjusted up, you put this on, the car will be 2 inches lower than a factory one would be, which is great because you can run a full-size spring, no problem, and you still have plenty of room to adjust. Rear shocks that they supply are also modified. They're short ends to give you more travel. Whatever option on rear springs you want, they'll give it to you. Everything's super nice. This is the single adjustable from the top. You can get these in double adjustable, but obviously for this particular car, we don't need that. We just want, this is a street car, single adjustable will do more than enough. So we're gonna install this, show you guys how it installs, and ultimately, once we get the car driving, we'll be able to tell you guys how it drives, how everything fit. But from experience, everything's gonna be great. And I can't wait to get, I believe I have like 5 or 6 sets of these on order. So anybody who's interested in these, just hit us up and we'll get you set up. All right, so we technically already showed you guys what the end result ended up being on the exterior on Rob's E36 as we took it to Bimmer Invasion. But for those of you who haven't, here is the finished product for now on the car. So we had our friends Daniel and Christine go ahead and kind of do an art car sort of theme on the exterior. Rob and I wanted to do sort of like a 90s, 2000s graphics all over the car. So they kind of took our initial idea and then made it their own. I think the car looks very interesting. You know, it might not be for everybody, but you know, I think it looks pretty cool. Did the whole thing. Obviously, they did it in such short notice, which is pretty impressive with me, because I think they probably took maybe 3-4 days on it, and then we took it to the meet. The swap and everything, like I said, was already done before we dropped it off to the body shop. We just had to do a few tweaks, but I'll walk around. So it's a 95 slick top S54 swap, has our exhaust. It's getting some MCS coilovers. Rob already had these Stop Tech trophy kit that I think he purchased before, a few months before even bringing me the car. So I'm not sure if I had showed you guys the interior of this car, but we had these Cobra seats that Rob really likes. And obviously they were old. So we went ahead and reupholstered them. We're running the Hard Motorsport door panels. You know, it's a race car, but initially we were gonna make it like a street race car where it was mainly gonna be used for street, but we're kind of switching gears and we're gonna end up making it mainly a race car. So we're gonna run these panels for now. We're gonna run this dash. We're still missing the Hard Motorsport rear panels, but this is probably, we're gonna use this for a few months, most likely swap it out. I told Rob these seats are a little too nice to leave in here if he's gonna just track it. So we'll probably end up throwing this interior and something else at one point, but this is like phase 1. We're thinking of doing a half cage, a little bit more interior cleanup, We're gonna be ripping out the carpet and really cleaning up the floorboards. Hard Motorsport has jumped on and is gonna give us a bunch of cool stuff that they offer for the E36. We're running a Turner adjustable front splitter, which honestly, I think this is the first one we install. And I think it's really great. If anyone's looking for an affordable splitter under panel, I'm super stoked on this splitter. The way it installs, the way it functions, it's great. And you know, you beat it up, you can buy all the parts individually versus you buy the factory LTW one. It's not that cheap. So, as you guys saw, this is the finished product in the bay for now. It's a built S54 that we got off of one of our tuners, Bo. I think it's BBR tuning. This was a motor he had in his personal car. He took it out because he put something that was a little crazier in there. So we went ahead and bought this one off of him. Forged pistons, forged rods, cams, valve train. Super stout motor. He went with something crazier, but this worked perfect for us. You know, this is one of probably many motors that this car is gonna have because we don't know what we end up doing. But I'll break it down to you. This is our CSF modified radiator that we run. It's running a CSF extra large oil cooler up front, power steering cooler, Turner CSL airbox. This was originally designed for an E36, but clearly we make it work, it fits, it's great. My brother went ahead and did the engine bay previously. And like I said before, it was fully stitch welded. Then obviously he went a little overboard and sealed up all the holes that we weren't gonna use. Cleaned up the bay, purposely built. There's still a lot more that we're gonna be doing to this car, but we're gonna basically show you in stages. So I guess you can call this stage 1, which is pretty cool because it's like, you can literally drive this car the way it is. There's nothing wrong with it. Enjoy it. There's no AC, so you probably sweat his balls off driving it, but you know, with all the other cool features of the car, you don't need AC or a radio. So we're gonna go ahead and hop in the car, let you guys hear how it sounds from the driver's seat, and do some flybys for you. All right, guys, so here's a little in-cab action in Rob's car. So, like I said before earlier, this is a straight cut gear transmission dog box. It's an H pattern. It's not a sequential. Meaning, you know, for those who don't know, a sequential trans is, you know, all gears are one direction, up and down like a motorcycle, you can say. So it's not a sequential. An H pattern transmission is like a standard trans you'll find in pretty much any manual car ever built, really. And you know, we call these, like, you know, I know them as dog boxes. And they have straight cut gears, which means, you know, for those who don't know what an inside of a manual transmission looks like, standard manual transmission has like spiral gears, like your differential, like a ring and pinion, to where the gears mesh together, which allow for really smooth, quiet engaging of the gears. But, you know, these transmissions they're designed pretty much just for racing. They're not like user friendly in the sense that, you know, you can't just daily drive it and it be a normal car. No, it's every time you put it in gear, you shift, it basically feels like the trans is gonna fall apart, or the car's falling apart. But they were designed to, you know, be abused, and they're relatively easy to rebuild or to replace parts on, modify them. This particular one I bought off of a friend of mine, Mike Radowski over at Maximum PSI. Originally, this trans was gonna go in my E34 wagon. When I had my turbo wagon, I was running a standard ZF trans, and I would always blow those transmissions up because I would, you know, not no lift shift, but I'd shift really hard. So I was like, screw it. He was selling his trans, I was gonna buy it. And I think I had it sitting for like 2-3 years, I don't know how long. Then I told Rob about it, he's like, we're definitely putting that in my car. So here it is. It's basically, you know, a factory ZF transmission that has been split, everything gutted out of it, and he used the bell housing and the tail section of it, and is now a straight cut gear ZF bodied 6-speed. So it bolts on just like stock, clutch is like stock, so you don't have to do much to it. But enough talking, let's go ahead and give this puppy a rip and let's see what you guys think. I'm gonna have the mic on, but I don't think it's gonna do much good, so let's do this. So in your standard BMW reverse, it's left and up. On this transmission, it's left and down, and then every other gear is the same. But one thing about like these straight cut gear transmissions, sometimes they don't go into gear. This thing doesn't really like to go in reverse when it's stopped or first. So what you have to do is, you know, you put yourself in position, and then you slowly let go of the clutch, and it'll engage. You know, and it, like I said, it sounds like it's gonna fucking break, but it's not. You just, you know, it's how they sound, it's how they are. But let's take this thing for a spin. And obviously this isn't, you know, I wouldn't recommend something like this for like a street car or like a daily. Having a conversation in a car like this is virtually impossible. But, you know, it definitely gives you that super race car vibe.